Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Taos, Baltimore. We are Baltimore positive. Exhale, everybody. We've gone from last place baseball to undefeated football, at least for the time being. We're going to be doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour beginning on the 16th of this month over at the Beaumont. We skipped them last month as part of the tastiness tour that we did for our 27th anniversary. Still go over, get the fried lobster. My wife still thinks I'm wrong. She thinks the lamb chops are better. And I'll have that debate. I think I'm going to have that with several people, including Pat Young on the 16th over in Catonsville. Come on out, get a free lottery ticket, and get a great lunch. I don't know if the Ravens are going to be, well, that point maybe 1-1. 0-2, 2-0. I don't know. This guy is up in Buffalo. Always love having him on. Not just his great press pass collection behind him, which you're inspiring me, John. You're giving me ideas here about what to do with all my press passes so when Chad Steele checks in, he can see the pelts on the wall. John Wawrow is here. He is with the Associated Press that never makes any assumptions, only facts, and both sides in Buffalo. And you've been doing this a long, long time. It's a pretty big football game on Sunday night, John, huh?
Yeah, it's a great way to kick things off for the season. You kind of wish that it would be like maybe week 5 or 6 where, you get a sense of where both teams are. But it's an intriguing opening match, as they would put it, on a Sunday night. So yeah, I'm curious to see where both teams are, but I don't know if there should be an overreaction after whatever the result is because both teams, I would guess, are going to be much better come the end of the season, especially the Bills.
Well, I mean, last year would be indicative of that, right? Like, I mean, the Ravens beat the snot out of the Bills early in
Right?
the year, had a chance to win. We've been talking about that one. Not that anybody will see that on NFL Network this week or anywhere they are. Andrew, the whole deal, right? Where are you with the Bills? I mean, and I think it's different on my end. We've seen this incredible disappointment here this summer with the baseball team. I mean, you go back, cover the Sabres back to, back to when they got screwed by Dallas, 27 years ago. But we've had, parades here with the football team. That's something that
Right?
certainly has eluded Buffalo and has been this. I've told you, I was there at the Art Shell game back in 80, whatever it was, 87, 88, 89, whatever. I've been doing this a long time too. We've had a little fun here, and the Orioles have been indicative of how it can be when you don't have fun. But the Bills are back in a way that for a couple decades it got real sleepy for a couple 6 quarterbacks and several head coaches. But this is as good as it gets. The stadium is happening. I can't impress upon people here this week. I flew into Buffalo a couple months ago. I went up to Toronto. It was opening day with
Yep.
Luke Jones. And I saw the stadium shell happening in the shadow of what has been Rich Stadium all of my life and O.J. Simpson and all of that. You're having a renaissance moment for what football is there, that Bon Jovi didn't take the team off to Toronto. This is but you need to win. You know what I mean? You need to at least get to a Super Bowl for this generation and then win it. And there's only a handful of places where Kansas City doesn't have to happen this year. But in Buffalo and Baltimore, it feels like this spotlight on this game for these communities, for Lamar. But we've won here. I feel for y'all. I had Sig on the other day. Coco's bought him a beer. I'm like, hey, man, if it can't happen for us, I want it to happen for you.
Well, getting over that last hump is the last step for the Bills. They're aware of it. Let's face it. I mean, they've lost to the Chiefs for the last 5 playoffs. They've beaten the Ravens in two playoff meetings over the last 5 years. So, the Ravens and the Bills have been playing second fiddle to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Is this the year it might happen with Josh Allen? Anything is possible. With Lamar Jackson, anything is possible. But I think the Bills are positioned to be that team right now, and I know how good the Ravens are. And I'm not going to take a lot out of this game per se because I'm sure these two teams will meet up once again in the playoffs. The division game, perhaps the AFC Championship game. Wouldn't that be something? But yes, there is an emphasis. The Bills know where they are in the pecking order. The Bills know where they have to get to, and I think they're better positioned than last year. I thought last year they were ahead of schedule in beating and getting to the AFC Championship game because of how depleted their defense was. And this window of competitiveness, I think, starts the trajectory is back up again, given their salary cap situation. They return mostly intact on offense with a couple of new pieces, and the defense is young but can only get better over the course of the season.
Well, around this time last year, talking about losing a bunch of players, and it felt like, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
they had an upheaval there with personnel and players, decorated players, and it worked out. I mean, you know what I mean? Like they've made
It
really
was much
deft
needed. It
decisions
was
there,
much
right?
needed to to set them up for the future. But yes, there were a lot of big names that left.
Well, and to my point, now they've got the team sort of situated where they sort of want it from a youth standpoint. And to your point, salary cap situation. Is this their strongest team? And I can sit here on the Baltimore side, and again, they don't play in preseason game. You're just looking at roster and personnel. My story this week for our fan base is I want to see how the 30 somethings look. I want to see how Ronnie Stanley looks and Derrick Henry and Marlon Humphrey, because you and I both know we're old. Eight,
Yeah,
9 months is a long time when you're 30 something in the
right.
NFL. That last year isn't this year. And then where they are in week 12 and 15 when they're along that road. The Ravens have the weirdest, hardest schedule ever, right? Like, they have Flacco coming in here next week if he survives this week, right? And then they have Detroit and they have Kansas City, and it's out of the gate. And you're looking at it and saying, well, on paper, they could be 4-0, but like that's not the way this league works. And certainly, you don't expect these kinds of games out of the gate, that if they are even 2-2, the games they lose to are Kansas City and Buffalo. They're going
Sure.
on the road in January again. And that's the worst feeling in the world, is to enter October saying we're playing backup and we haven't even seen the Steelers and the Bengals yet here.
Well, and that's the thing with, I mean, okay, the Bills benefit from having a weaker division. Let's face it, the AFC East is not very good. I think the New England Patriots with Vrabel there, um, are probably on an upswing. Whether this is their year to contend or at least push the Bills, I'm not sure. The Dolphins are a mess. The Jets, you just don't know who they are. They don't have a quarterback yet. And the Bills are the Bills. So, whereas Baltimore, to your point, those divisional matchups are intense, even if you're playing the Browns. I mean, the Browns are competitive in division when they play these division games. So you're right. I mean, this should be the Bills benefit from having an easier schedule. That said, they play Kansas City. They've got Baltimore. They've got, I don't have the schedule in front of me.
First
I wish
place
I did.
schedule, just in
But it's a
general, I
first
expect that.
guess. Yeah,
But they
there are some
also
tough
can go
games.
6-0. I mean, I wouldn't get big
But
money
right.
on them going 6-0. If you want to bet a parlay, bet the Bills at 6-0 in their own division, and
Yes. Yes, definitely.
and at least 5-1, right? I mean, but the Ravens aren't going 6-0 in the AFC. I don't believe. I mean, if they do, they're really they're going to be a 15-2 kind of team.
Sure.
And you know what? I've been doing this 30. This is their 30th anniversary of the Ravens, by the way, John. So as you guys go into that new stadium and this thing that you're about to do, we took that spaceship off 30 years ago now. And
Wow.
with the Ravens coming here and Art Modell and Vinny and all of that stuff. And we've had good teams. We've had teams where they begin the year. As long as Brady was breathing, we never had the better team on paper, right? And we always
Sure.
had the defense with Ray Lewis, but couldn't figure out the offense, even with Steve McNair or whatever. This is the year here of all the 30 years. There've been a couple, three or four, and the Ravens have had great teams where you're like, they're a top one or two. Maybe the Eagles, maybe the Bills, not the Chiefs in the depth department, right? But like just looking at their acquisitions in the offseason, this gave Kyle Hamilton $100 million. A lot of people
Right.
don't know who Kyle Hamilton is.
Oh, he's a good player.
He
He is a
he's
good player.
he's starting to Mount Rushmore himself for the
Sure.
Ravens, right?
Right.
I mean,
I
he's
get
really
that.
good.
Yeah, no, and the Bills did the same thing this offseason by locking up. Well, it took a while with James Cook, with his hold in, but they have locked up their young core for the future. I mean, Josh Allen is now locked in through 2030. Terrell Bernard, their middle linebackers locked in. Khalil Shakir's locked in. Greg Russo, their pass rushers locked in. James Cook and Christian Benford, their top cornerback, is locked in. That's not to say they don't have question marks, but they have a core of a team to build around for what is 4 or 5 years to come. So there is stability, unlike this, like, unlike the instability and the dysfunction that was here for that 17-year playoff drought, the Bills have found their groove, much like the Baltimore Ravens have really been a model of success, over much of their tenure there.
Well, I mean, moving from Flacco to Lamar, moving from a bunch of Steve Smith type of, Matt
Sure,
Burks,
right,
Anquan Paul. They brought in veteran players here from Woodson, going back 20. It's Shannon Sharp. They've always been an attractive place to come, whether it's Billick or
right.
Harbaugh and Ozzie and all of that. The Bills haven't had that, and it feels not new and fresh anymore. Now it feels like high expectation, but do you love their roster? I mean, are you at a point where you're like, well, this is as good as it gets, even better than maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where you had Diggs and you had a couple of players, Vaughn come over. I mean, you had players there prime going into their prime. That's what kind of the Ravens are, because I feel like Lamar's in his prime. There's still prime left in
Right.
Derrick Henry. Ascending players. I mean, Zay Flowers, ascending player. You won't see Isaiah Likely this week, ascending player. Roquan Smith, I don't know. Marlon Humphrey, I don't know. And they've drafted corners, safeties, young guys to step up, but their ones are on the field. They're playing. Their best players are playing. Everybody other than Likely is kind of healthy right now to start a season. They had unbelievably good health last year, on a year where
Right.
every Oriole pitcher's getting Tommy John here, and it blew the season up here. It cost people jobs here. The Ravens don't concern themselves with, I'm getting fired, I got to prove myself, what this is, what that. But keeping Lamar upright, obviously, rule number one here. But just along the line, the expectation level when you have a best ever roster in a place where you've already won Super Bowls, it's like, you mentioned how Sunday night doesn't matter. Well, you lose, you wake up 0-1. You're like, hey man, that's when the sky starts falling, when you believe you're going to win 13 or 14 games.
I get that. I get that. I'm not sure if this is the Bills' best roster, but it's deeper than it was a year ago. At which point, like I said, they surprised me by making it to the AFC Championship game, and they did so on offense, in which Josh Allen won an MVP, and I think deservedly so. They did it with Josh Allen not having to carry the entire load, but distribute the ball, leaning on a running attack, and not having a number one receiver, but using a bunch of receivers to their strengths. I mean, they did not have a 900-yard receiver. And how does Josh Allen become the MVP? Because he distributed the ball smartly. The offense worked with this everybody eats type of mentality. They had Mac Hollins catch 5 touchdown passes. I think Dalton Kincaid, the tight end, who was coming off an injury-plagued season last year, should regain some of the promise that he had as a rookie. I think that's a bright sign. Joshua Palmer is their big new bright addition at receiver, who's an upgrade, I think, over Mac Hollins and Amari Cooper, who was kind of on his last legs here in Buffalo as a late midseason addition. So, and you've got Khalil Shakir, who might be emerging as one of the best slot receivers in the NFL, and it really has a good rapport with Josh Allen. So, and you've got Keon Coleman, who is being counted upon to step up after having an inconsistent first season. The big question mark is on defense, where they're young. They've got 2 defensive linemen who are serving 6-game suspensions in Larry Ogunjobi, and Michael Hecht, who's going to be a jack of all trades, kind of defensive end linebacker type of player. So they're both out, and now you've got a bit of a young and banged up secondary with question marks about Tre'Davious White. And will he be ready for week 1 to start opposite Christian Benford? Or are they going to have to go deep into a backup because Maxwell Hairston, their number 1 draft pick, sprained his knees and is opening the season on IR? They've also got a question mark at safety as to who plays opposite Taylor Rapp. So the back end still has to be figured out. They're pretty stout and young on the front end. So let's see where this defense is at, especially facing the challenge of not only Derrick Henry, but a mobile dual threat of quarterback of Lamar Jackson. I'll be curious to see how this thing plays out.
John Wawrow from the Associated Press in Buffalo, New York, is joining us here where they're building one stadium, getting rid of another stadium. They've got a now, look, dude. I can't let you get away with what you just did there. You just gave me the whole Bills thing. You put that thing in. Josh Allen, deservedly so, on the MVP. There's certainly that conjecture here with Lamar and Lamar getting screwed and this and that, and he's won. They both have won. I think it would rub Lamar the wrong way, and certainly there is become this. They're on the poster for Sunday Night Football, right? Like
Right,
they are the
right.
star power. I land in the Buffalo airport. Josh Allen selling cheese. Josh Allen said, his posters everywhere in the Buffalo. You drive out. There's as many Josh Allen billboards as there are those buffaloes on the corners that they have
Right.
there.
Yes.
And he really is the toast of the town, and it's been the best thing since Jim Kelly and all that. Here's where I am, John, and you're a real X's and O's guy, an old schooler and all that, going back to Jim Kelly and K-Gun and all that. Not only did Jim Kelly not run a lot because Steve Young at that point was getting his head knocked off, but I didn't love when Lamar was running into linebackers here 8 years ago.
Right.
I still
Sure.
don't love it. It's still the most awkward thing in the world to me to have your quarterback out there. But there is a point where you're a little more protected than Steve Young was or Jim McMahon was or, anybody that tried to run before this era of football, but that designed runs and how it stretches the field. It's almost like Canadian football. It's like
Sure.
you're playing 11 on 10 in a real sense of defensive offense. If you're Joe Flacco's your quarterback, let's say, right? And you're playing, it feels like 11 on 15 the other way. If you've got to deal with a quarterback with 4.2 speed, Josh Allen has all of that, but Josh Allen will run you over. And there is that point of the fake I'm going down and like all of the Lamar plays this game when he gets to the sideline.
Yeah.
Hit me late, give me 15 more. They're all skating the refs. They're all skating. I'm going to get down low. You're going to hit me in the head. Flacco had his head taken off by Kiko Alonso here
Right.
years ago by ducking into a concussive hit. So I'm always worried about the franchise, whoever your franchise is, and the quarterbacks put them in these franchises really put themselves at risk. So does Mahomes, and there's been better fortune, but the game's been legislated into that. But I do think these quarterbacks take some risks that they don't necessarily need to take, and it makes me queasy, and I know it must make John Harbaugh queasy, which is why we've not seen Lamar even walk onto the field thus far, right?
Neither is Josh Allen, which I mean, this is the first offseason. He's not played a preseason snap aside from like the COVID year where all the preseason games were wiped out. I mean, but
I saw
I will
Michael
say,
Vick lose his career. Well, the
sure,
first time. Yeah, I was down in Atlanta for that preseason game. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It really does make
yes.
sense to not play these guys.
And I will say this, two things. I think and this is I meant no disrespect towards Lamar over saying deservedly so, because I think you could flip it by making the argument that I think Josh Allen may have been the MVP in Lamar's MVP year and vice versa. In some ways, they're both elite quarterbacks, and you can continue that debate. But why I say deservedly so is because you saw Josh Allen last year. To your point about running, is I thought he played a smarter, more efficient game. His turnovers were way down, and he chose his spots to run. Yes, we saw him hurdling a couple of guys here and there, but he did that less often and allowed James Cook to really run the ball in goal line situations, which led to him being the co-leader with Derrick Henry with 16 touchdowns rushing. So I thought we saw a big maturity jump. Not to say that he's been immature, but we saw Josh Allen take the next step as a leader of his team in being efficient, smart, and playing within the offense's limitations and potential. That was a near perfect season for Josh Allen last year.
Well, listen, I talked to all of you in week 3 before the Ravens beat the snot out of them, and everybody's a lot of changes. The fan
Yep.
base is up, but they were the horse that might have been losing the race the first furlong or two, but caught up. And that's what everyone, as we sit here and debate all of this in absence of anything we've seen on the field. I mean,
Right.
they don't even tackle in practice. So how sloppy the tackling will be, how bad the officiate. I mean, I'll make the headlines right now. The officiating will suck. Kickers will miss kicks. Assignments will be blown. Flags will be blown. There'll be a lot of flag. Like it'll be sloppy. It'll just it's going to be a slog a little bit in the early going. But I do know this: these are the pedigree teams that they're putting on the pedestal, and it will be judged, right? Like how these teams look. And I said to Luke, I just want to see crisp football. They've been practicing together. They're a veteran
Right.
team. They brought in veteran players. You mentioned last year that you wound up with Amari Cooper. We got Hopkins here. After Odell Beckham, after Steve Smith. Bringing in the veteran wide receivers and trying to find an impact for that in this offense where there's one football. And
Right.
Rashad Bateman wants the first round draft pick, wants the ball. Zay Flowers, Pro Bowler, wants the ball. Derrick Henry, Hall of Famer, wants the ball. DeAndre Hopkins, Hall of Famer, wants the ball. Lamar, going to run eight
Sure.
or 10
Right.
times, and if you're not running them 8 or 10 times, we're asking why. So it's really a weird mix. And when I say all of this, if somehow they go out and fumble the ball twice and have an interception, and the kicker, my God, after what we've been through with the kicker this offseason, if he misses a
Yes.
kicker, an extra point, and somehow the Ravens lose 31-27, the sky will be falling around here, and vice versa if it's the other way around on your end and the Ravens come in and somehow steamroll the Bills and beat them 37-13 on the opening night because it's just not sharp for the Bills, and the Ravens come out like being the Ravens. Like, we are going to judge it because these are really good teams, and the league sets it up this way. I think it's just kind of part of the novella, isn't it?
Right, it is, but I still reflect back to what happened in Baltimore and how the Bills were. That was Baltimore's best game from my vantage point. They came out ready and they took advantage of a team that was bit on its heels offensively and defensively, and they attacked the Bills. They rammed it down their throat.
It was a 30
I
minute
was
game, really. I mean, it
I
was
was very
unbelievable.
impressed.
Yeah.
Yes. That said, I don't think this is going to be a blowout on either side. I think it will be sloppy to a sense, but I think my big take, I'm not worried so much about the offense, famous last words, but I'm more interested in seeing how the defense shapes up with all the new pieces in place, while having Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard in the middle. There's some new pieces on the defense. I'm going to see how that rotation works. And I don't think that there's going to be an emphasis on pressuring the quarterback a lot more this season in Buffalo after they struggled last year. Joey Bosa is a new piece. Whether they'll get to Lamar, I doubt it. As much as they want to, I doubt it. But I want to see how this defense looks, and I think that's where the big emphasis is. Look going into week one. After week one, I still don't think the sky is falling because the Bills, they wind up playing. They go to the Jets. They play Miami on Thursday night. Um, and this is a team that is accustomed to playing efficient, good football. If they lose in week one, the Bills will figure things out. And I know Harbaugh well enough to know that there shouldn't be any panic on the Ravens side should they lose in week one because it's the old cliche. I don't even want to bring it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But these are two elite teams in the NFL in the AFC that I know will be in the playoffs and will probably likely meet again in the playoffs as they did last year.
Yeah, and I guess when they do meet in the playoffs, I'll say I want to see a good, crisp game, but I would
Sure,
expect that 6 or 8 of these players will be hurt by then or banged up to such a point where they'll be on the injured list when it happens on January 20, whenever. John Wawrow
sure.
was here from the Associated Press in Buffalo. All right, off the game, off of Lamar, off of Josh, well, maybe not off of Josh, but the stadium situation up there and the saving of the team. I know you're a Canadian by birth, a Buffalonian by choice, and we'll get to the replacements and some rock and roll and some stuff before we roll out. But I flew in, saw the stadium. I've seen pictures of it. Speak to it from a civic standpoint there. We had PSLs here 30 years ago. Poor suckers licenses is what I called them then. And having held one and relinquished it, I can assure you. And, the league has tried all sorts of games. It's a really weirdly small market with a really, really strangely Buffalonian collegiate feel that the
Yep.
Baltimore Colts once had here. And it's a different kind of franchise, but one that was in peril, one that was languishing, one that was needed a lot of things, including what a lot of some people thought, and you're a Canadian, thought needed Toronto or needed something that might look like that for the league. And it would have been very easy for the league to say, hey, we want a franchise in Toronto. We don't want one in Buffalo. Let's do whatever we need to do to pull out. Like sort of like they did in St. Louis or San Diego or
Right.
Baltimore the first time, or places they don't want to be.
The new stadium secures the Bills' long-term future, and I do believe that any talk of relocation is probably moot.
Oh, I know that.
And
I'm
has
saying, but
right, no, but
before,
it has been moot, really ever since the Pagulas bought the team from the Ralph Wilson's estate in 2014, and even then, even after Ralph died, immediately after, when you had John Mara saying publicly that the Bills aren't relocating, it really, I think, solidified the franchise, and I guess honored Ralph Wilson's legacy in what he built in Buffalo, because he became a Buffalonian as well. And the last thing, despite the threats, he never had a real want to move the franchise. All that said, we've got a new stadium, which is really weird.
right, you waited
After
a long time for this, man.
Yes,
That's and there was always peril. Every time I come up there, I'm like, they can't continue this. It's like going out to Oakland. It's like at some point,
right, yes, right.
Toronto will come and take somebody will come and take your team if you don't fix this, man.
And this was necessary. It's over budget, which the Pagulas are picking up. All the cost overruns. It's at $2.1 billion now. So the Pagulas will be on the hook for at least, what is it? If I do the math correctly, sorry, about $1.2 billion for this thing. So public funding is at 850 million. Not chump change. But this
And
is the
every New
stadium
Yorker
that's,
takes that on, right? If you live in Long
yes,
Island or
correct.
Montauk and you're a Mets
Yes.
fan, you're taking that on, right? Okay.
But this is the stadium that Josh built, and it does. You mentioned the word renaissance. We have seen the renaissance of the Bills franchise, which I think is really good for the NFL, because the NFL seemed dull when the Bills were mediocre and dysfunctional. This is they've built they've built themselves a very good franchise from top down, and now they have the stadium to show for it. It's going to sell out. All the PSLs are mostly sold out, even though I think they're going to be selling them for less than they expected at this point. But I'm going to miss the Ralph, which is what we call or Rich Stadium. We seem to want to call it the Ralph here. I'm going to miss the Ralph because of its sight lines, because of how just its throwback configuration. I like old stadiums, but it is time for a change. I'm I'm curious, and from all accounts, I think this stadium is going to be smaller in capacity, down to 60,000, 60 plus thousand, down from about 74. But I think the confines are going to be even more intimate, which might make it even more difficult for visiting teams because this place, the Ralph, is loud. And this place has the potential of even being louder.
Well, it's designed to be louder, right?
Yes,
Literally, right?
it is. It is. And less wind, which I think is good for football. It's open air, so we're not going to lose the snow globe, whiteout games that have been famous here in Buffalo.
Which will not happen on Sunday night. We hope.
No, no.
John Wawrow is here from the Associated Press in Buffalo, New York, one of our fun defending champions and returning champions. Okay, so some rock and roll. Where are you in the rock and roll thing? I am seriously considering flying up to your homelandia there, crossing the bridge, the Peace Bridge, or maybe I just go up north over Niagara Falls. But Brian Adams playing in St. Catharines and playing in Toronto back-to-back nights, and I just like coming up there, and it's kind of fun for me to bang around Canada for a couple days because I think that way. But yeah, what are you listening to, man? Give me something that's got you. The Cult's coming out and doing some shows next month. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm still digging into new music and the alternative side of it. I mean, I like the cult, but I'm not into. I had a chance. We went. My wife and I went to Quebec City. We had a chance to go. The Pixies were playing a big festival, headlining a big festival. I'm not into the big shows anymore. I'm too old for that. I'm too old for mosh pits. It rained that day, so thank goodness we didn't go. But I'm more into listening to new sounds. I like Wet Leg's new second album, Moisturizer, I believe it was called. I've been listening to that. I picked up a few new CDs lately. Haven't given them a spin because it's football season, but replacements. The re-release of Let It Be is finally going to be out, which I've already put down $150 to get the T-shirt, the four vinyl albums, and all the other paraphernalia. So looking forward to that. Some new songs from the Mats. But yeah, Wet Leg is the song "Man Get Out," which is actually Mons 2. You got to give that a spin. It's a nice little rocker from that British twosome.
Tommy Stinson tried to steal my girlfriend backstage at Hammerjacks in
Ah,
1990. So,
ah,
you know what I mean? Like, she was beautiful, but like, I didn't appreciate it. So,
no, as well, he was the youngest Matt and always the cutest, apparently.
John Wawrow is here from the Associated Press in Buffalo. We don't play Buffalo every week, but I have a feeling, and I appreciate all of you. Vic Carucci's coming by this week. I'm going to have Sal Capaccio. So I like coming up and mixing it up with you. I like beef on weck even better and some
Ah,
proper wings. But I would say I have a feeling I'll talk to you again. I have a feeling you'll hear from me second, third week of January, and we'll have to get together again and go through this
yep,
and who's the MVP. I hope it goes that well for both of the franchises because that's sort of as they meet at the state fair here and run the races, that's sort of the card for me. I want to see them at the front of the race, and I want to see a great season, because
yep.
we lost out on here on the baseball team. Just and a great season is somebody's going to lose on Monday morning. We just need to make sure it's not us.
I'll be there covering the game. I get to cover the winning team, win or lose. So that happens. That's the benefit of being an AP writer.
All right. Well, listen, the minute I obtain the Buffalo Sabres 1969 belt buckle that I've been chasing on the internet, I will make sure I
Ha,
send it over to you. So, John Wawrow here from the Associated Press in Buffalo. We're doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour on the 16th. We're back out at Beaumont. We got some great guests coming by. Come by, hang out. I think it was number 25 on my list that we did the fried lobster tail. Tasty Nest, brought to you by our friends at Curio Wellness and Foreign Daughter, is out as well. The countdown continues. I've got cookies, I've got cakes, I've got pies, I've got coconut shrimp, all sorts of good things happening. But we have football on Sunday night in Buffalo. Luke's got us covered. All of the breaking news will happen on the WNST Tech Service, brought to you by Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. Come on out, get a lottery ticket from me. Let's have some fun. It's football season. I'm Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking. Baltimore positive, even with the new sexy 27th logo.